Hey y'all, it's Ame, the Afro Queer Coach, and I want to talk a little bit about relationships, which is actually one of my favorite subjects. I love love, and I just want, um, I love love. I love relationships. I love friendships. I just get super excited about this topic. So, yes, please help me celebrate love right now. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to, break it up into like three things. So I want to talk about love and relationships. I want to talk about partnerships. And I want to talk about accountability. And this can apply to, your relationship with a friend, your relationship with a, close mentor and confidant. It can be relationship with your lover or lovers. Yeah, so just take it for what it is, and I hope that some of this can help you, I don't know, think about how your relationship is doing. So the first thing, when I took some time to like reflect about this, the course that I'm in right now, I'm in a coaching learning community, and we are encouraged to just, do reflections and ask ourselves questions to, interrogate certain ideas and thought patterns that we might have. So I really, really love doing that, and I definitely recommend that as a process. I'm not really a journaling type anymore, but I do like kind of just writing down reflections and thoughts. So I was thinking about love, and the overarching theme that came from me, as far as like how I want to approach love. Now, I don't always do it this way, but how I want to approach it is with an agreement of an agreement that I'll give myself grace, right? And that I'll keep myself safe. So yeah, giving myself grace just means, treating myself like this baby, right? I have this image in my mind that I got from Louise Hay, who's like this self-help author, and she talks about, treating yourself like you would treat a newborn baby, right? And like you're holding this baby, and you're rocking the baby, and then the baby like vomits on your shirt. You're not gonna go and just holler at this child and like, WTF baby, why are you vomiting? You give the baby grace because you understand the position, you understand what's going on in this particular time, and what this baby, that this baby can't help what just happened. It's a mistake, right? Well, it's not a mistake that they're doing it, but like it getting on your shirt might be a mistake. So yeah, just approaching myself with grace and with a compassion that that forces me to keep myself safe. I think that is something that I'm continuously, learning how to do better and better. It's definitely something that I don't think I was raised to believe. I was definitely raised, with a lot of self-blame, and that doesn't really doesn't always help in relationships, especially when you're trying to communicate with somebody that you care about, and you can't really separate, your self-blame from like the blame that you might, have in that relationship. So anyways, there are a couple of questions that I asked myself that I think helped me get to, the practice of grace and compassion. And one of them is, what values do I want to live? Okay. What's important to me? And how do I show that that's important to me in my relationship with myself and my relationships with others? I guess an example for me would be past relationships. I was quite codependent, okay? So I didn't have a value of, I didn't have compassion. I didn't have something within me that wanted me to move in a direction that, felt good for me, that was putting my feelings first, that was putting, my comfort and my warm fuzzies first. I was always really trying to, I guess, satisfy somebody else so that I could get chose or stay chose or something like that. So it's something that I had to one day realize that this is a value that I have. And in order for me to live in that value, I had to address the codependency issues that I had that came from, decades ago. I had to do that work so that I could better align my relationship with my values. And it was a shift for everyone. I think that my relationship with my partner changed a little bit. My relationships with my friends changed a little bit, right? But that's the whole point of love, I think, to me, is when you love somebody, you're able to do that little, wiggling around to fully allow the person that you love to live in their values. And that can be really hard. But it's also really worth it. And then when you find yourself living in those values, you're able to give parts of yourself that you probably didn't even know you had, right? You're able to tap into all the other possibilities of yourself. And that's a really beautiful thing. And another thing about love, I think, that stands out to me is that love, the way that I've defined it for myself, is something that's kind of hard to separate from respect. So an example is if I were to get into an argument with somebody that I love and who says that they love me, and our arguments turn into, well, you know what, you did this, they got a whole list of things that they've been thinking about me, and they're just going to bring it all out, and this is what I can expect every time that we have a disagreement, then I'm probably not going to believe that that's actual love, because that would make me feel disrespected. And it's hard for me to feel that love when there's disrespect there. And it's not to say that you can't get back to a point of having, mutual respect. I think that that's, kind of what has happened with my family, since I've come out and been in a committed relationship with my wife. I think that there's some work that it took to rebuild from, all the contentions that we had and all the things that were said and done or not done, right? So, but I think going through those processes, especially with my family, my parents and my siblings, has, reinforced this idea for me that I really do need love to be shown through respect, through mutual respect. And that involves, both parties to work. It involves everybody to make an effort to honor each other through the disagreement, right? So, yeah, I would say, one way to look at that is, if you look at your disagreements with a loved one, a friend, and when you look at those disagreements, what stands out? What do you notice? When you think about your feelings through those disagreements, what stands out? And then you start there, and then you keep interrogating and just learn to be curious about your own feelings and processes, thought processes, and I think that's, that's one way to get to the root of like, how do you want love to look like? How do you want it to be modeled to you? How do you want to model it to yourself and to others? Okay, so next thing is partnership. And I say partnership, but I also say friendship, because when I think of partnership in my relationship right now, I think of basically a lifelong friendship. I have platonic friends who I know are lifelong friendships, and we've made that commitment, and I consider them one of my significant others. Just I love them, and they come first for me in a lot of different situations, and I want that with my partner. I feel like when we think about what our partnership means, to me it comes down to that friendship. It comes down to genuinely enjoying spending time together and growing together, and finding your person or persons charming, finding out about shared histories and creating futures, right? And all of that really requires a commitment, not just a commitment to staying together. I think that that's what people think of when they think of commitment in relationship. It's like commitment that you're going to stay with me. And I want to take it a step further and, really think about commitment as a commitment to work, a willingness to do the work that it's going to take, because no relationship is perfect. I know mine sure isn't perfect. But no relationship is perfect. And at some point you kind of figure that out and realize that nothing is going to be 100%, but it's how you do the work to get through the difficult times that, to me, really illustrate what that commitment means, right? So I pulled, oh my gosh, she's out of control. So I pulled some tarot cards last night to help me kind of like, think and reflect about, this topic. And something that came up to me is a card that talked about, willingness to go inside and sift through all the broken pieces while resisting judgment, okay? It's kind of cryptic, but it's kind of not. How I interpret that is that the commitment is a willingness to sit with each other, right, as we become better people. I am such a different person than I was 5 years ago when my lady, chose me. Very different person. And I've appreciated their willingness to sit with me and sit with me through, my process of sifting through all the broken pieces to figure out kind of like what my whole looks like. I've not always been the easiest person to deal with, okay? And on any given day, you might ask them and they'd be like, no, she's not easy to deal with. But generally, it's been good. I think that going through those hard times and having someone demonstrate to me their willingness to sit with me while I'm going through that, that to me is what solidified the commitment. That's what makes it very easy to know when we have other arguments, is this something that I can just walk away from? Right? Like, what is this worth? And let's see. And then another thing that's also great with sitting with a friend or a partner or a lover through their growth and through that is that you have the opportunity to name that and just say, you know what, babe, when that happened to you, last year, it was really rough, but this year you handled it differently. You did this, and that, and name that growth and celebrate that growth, because there's something really powerful about knowing that other people are seeing the work that you're doing every single day. So yeah, so it's really about really willing to do the work to make this relationship matter, to show each other this relationship matters, and enjoying each other. Because there's a lot of people that, I appreciate and I celebrate, but I'm not willing to sit with everybody and do the work. Some friendships just end, and it's hard. But I feel really invested in the ones that I do have, that I do put that work in. And to me, that satisfies me, that fulfills me, because I'm able to cultivate, a group of people that I can fall back on. Now, when I feel vulnerable enough to fall back on people, that's a whole different thing. But I do like the opportunity to cultivate that and to really see myself having people that I just think are funny and great, and that, I'm going to know you for the rest of my life. And that excites me, right? I'm not just like, dang, I want to be dealing with this and that the rest of my life. I'm just like, no, I'm going to know you for the rest of my life. And you've already shown me how different and exciting you can be. I can't wait to see you transform. I can't wait to see you in 10 years. I can't wait to be part of your life and your experience in that time. And that's what I want from my friends and partners. I want them to be excited, not just about who I am now, but about my potential, and really wanting to go there with me. I think is really beautiful and special. Okay, so the last part I want to talk about is accountability in relationships. And if I can define it another way, accountability is, to me, is how I share the responsibility for my relationships. I think the most basic example is that whole this idea that I've had in the past of, I'm going to wait for so-and-so to call me. And if they're really my friend, that they're going to call me, and I'm just going to sit here and wait. And really, like, imposing this test on somebody else that they're going to fail because they can't read my mind, right? And using that to, assign blame for something in the relationship, without ever really talking about it, or really giving myself and my friend the opportunity to get to the root of this resentment. Because it's not that they couldn't read my mind. That's not what I'm mad about. There's something else that's there, but this is just how the problem surfaces. So I think really not resisting the opportunities to assign responsibility to people for things that they might not even know, things that are in your mind. So I have some questions, but I'll get to them in a second, because so there's that. But then there's also the flip side, which is taking on too much of the responsibility. Taking the responsibility for not being able to read your partner's mind. Taking on the responsibility for not centering them. Okay, because remember we talked about, you're walking into love with this grace and this sense of compassion for yourself first and foremost. Right? So if I'm showing up in my relationship and my friend or my lover is upset because I'm not putting them first, then we might have a problem. Because if I'm not putting myself first, then how am I walking into this relationship? Right? So really think about, how do we share the blame? in your friendships, how are you sharing the blame? How are you creating the culture of accountability? If you all never talk about it, and eventually somebody just decides to, I'll just take this one, then you're sharing the blame, technically, but I guess you don't really understand what the blame is coming from, or if it's really being, or if there's somebody who's not taking responsibility for some portion of it. So, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense to y'all. But the question is just like, how do we share the blame, right? Ask yourself that in relationships, and that is usually a good first step towards, investigating what the culture of accountability is in that relationship. And that's also something you can do in your groups, right? Like, I'm part of a collective, and we were just having a conversation about accountability and how we want to create a culture of accountability, and what that means. And it's something that's going to be an ongoing conversation, because mistakes happen, people get hurt. But how do you deal with that? And how do you make sure that everybody, for the most part, can walk away with something? A follow-up question to that would be, how do we deal with conflict? Is it swept under the rug? Is it kind of like a smell conflict and then bark and bite? Is it hold it in and explode type of thing? There are a lot of different ways that that people deal with conflict. And I don't know. I mean, I know of like the right ways, in like, common knowledge, like cooperation and collaboration. I know that I struggle with that, especially when my feelings are hurt. So I'm really working to see in my friendships and my other relationships, how do I handle conflict in a way that makes use of my tools instead of ignoring them and making the situation worse. And then the other thing, and this is especially for people who are in romantic relationships, people who are lovers, is how do we fight with humanity? Yeah? Because it's going to happen. No relationship is perfect. And if you're telling yourself that your relationship is perfect, then you're lying to yourself, and you should probably get that checked. But how do you fight? How do you have arguments with humanity? How do you make sure that you're not dehumanizing, your lover, or adding to, historical pains? How do you make sure that you're really honoring their humanity throughout the process and really coming at it from a goal that is humane, okay? And that's actually a good question to ask. What is the goal of this argument? I mean, think to yourself, think to the last time that you had an argument with somebody that you really care about. What was your goal for the argument? Is your goal to win the argument? Is your goal to understand where the other person is coming from? Is your goal to find an actual way to compromise so that you both leave feeling good about it? I'll be honest with you. Like, over the course of my life, probably 8 times out of 10, my goal has been to win. Okay, I'm like, we have this argument and I am gonna win. And there are some places where that's still true, especially when I'm arguing with people about, something that's just a fact, like the humanity of somebody, or like, how systems work, racism, that kind of thing. Then my goal is to win, because I definitely don't want to understand you, and I don't think that we're going to walk away with this both feeling right. I just don't. So that's very different than an argument that, I might have with my partner. And it takes practice, and I'm still practicing this, but I'm still practicing kind of identifying, okay, we're getting into, argument territory. What's the goal here? What's the goal here, and how am I going to approach this situation in a way that, works towards the goal and not just, towards me feeling better because somebody else feels worse or vice versa. But yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there, really talk about relationships, talk about, love and partnership and accountability. Because I really do, I just want everybody to, have love for themselves and love for each other. And, I think that relationships, and now I mean, friendships, partnerships, romantic relationships